are stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
Hello, Wanderers. I am AJ Rasmussen, and this is Soul Wanderings. It's a show where we receive an opportunity to hear journey stories from humans from all walks of life, all types of experiences, and these humans show up to share authentic pieces of themselves with all of us. Welcome. Surprise. We are live on video, and you can go over and watch us on the KGRA Facebook or YouTube pages, and you can visit with us there. There's chat room. You can hang out with other listeners. You can also, if that's not your thing, visit the chat room directly on kgradb.com. As always, either place you can ask those questions for our guests. Yes, too. If you feel the desire to do so, that's kgradb.com and click on that chat button. This week, we have this awesome opportunity to soul wander with two guests who just so happen to be lifelong friends from many lifetimes. Dr. David Bettenhausen and Carla Bogni-Kidd are here to spend time with us, sharing their story, how their paths crossed throughout their lives, which they discovered through meditation and regression. They learned that reincarnation is real, and they have over 29 past lives together. In addition, the two of them have co-authored a couple of books. One's out. We'll get to hear about that, and we'll also get to hear how you can get your hands on them and their journey story, of course. So in the meantime, let's welcome our two guests to the show and begin this wandering. Hello, Dave and Carla. Welcome.
Hi, AJ.
Hi, AJ. It's a pleasure to get to meet you.
You both as well. Thank you. I'm excited for this new year. We have video on my show, which is new to me, not new to you. So this is fun. Cool. I get to see your faces.
You get to see and talk to people.
Yeah, it's a lot different, and I know I'm going to love it. So it's good to see you both. You guys have quite a story to share with us. There's no doubt about that. Before we go on, though, let's get to know each of you individually, who you guys are on your own. So, Carla, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm retired. Yay. I've been retired about a year, so we have plenty of time to write books now. I guess the most important thing that I feel about myself is I am the most happy when I'm helping others. And, and it's the honest to God truth. So writing our books, it's really to pass the word along. The things that we have been taught in the past 6 years, what's real about religion, what isn't, what's real about God, what isn't, with reincarnation. Other than that, I don't require a lot. I just need to be content. And since this whole journey started, that's where I am. I'm pretty content.
It's a lovely place to be.
Yes, for sure.
You earned it. You deserve it.
Yes. 63 more years of it.
I look forward to that. I still have a minute, but I look forward to it nonetheless.
Yes.
Dave, what about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So since Carla mentioned religion, I was raised Catholic. That's sort of interesting when you start talking about reincarnation as a subject. My background is I was actually a registered nurse, worked in open hearts for about 10 years. I went back to medical school, graduated, bought a practice, Carla ended up being the office manager that I bought the practice from. So we've been friends for a very, very long time. Back in 2014, we had an experience. And it really started with me being incredibly grouchy and unapproachable when electronic medical records became. And so it changed the way everything in the office had to be done. And when it started, I was getting up at 5 a.m, getting on the computer. Sometimes I wasn't off the computer till 9 o'clock at night. It became not pleasant to be a physician, probably not pleasant to be a physician's office manager. And Carla got the wrath or my tiredness. And one day she came up and said, "You've got to do something. You're not your normal happy self." And believe it or not, she came and said, "I was reading from AARP magazine. I think you should try meditation." And I was like, okay, meditation's better than the counselor, the other things she offered. So we had a day, we all sat down, and Carla had the other office girls came in. She lit a candle. We played music. We turned off all the computers for 30 minutes. When we got done, I jumped up and ran down the hall and started seeing patients. And it did make me feel better, so we kept doing it. Then it came the day when I had a memory while meditating, and the memory was me running on a beach in 1962. I have to tell you part of the backstory. Carla lived in Boston as a young girl. I lived in Nebraska. And in 1962, my dad went to graduate school in Boston, and he took us to a beach. Only thing I had was this memory during meditation. I was running on the beach. There were Ferris wheels and an amusement park right next door. I was running on the beach, and this little girl ran over, yelled at me, and said, "Be quiet, you're bothering my family." She pushed me down. She sat on my chest. She actually gave me a kiss on the forehead. She jumped up, put both hands on her hips, kind of gave me that grouchy, smirky look, and she had this little two-piece blue bathing suit with ruffles and a little tiny pot belly. At least I said tiny pot belly. And in the background, I heard a woman say, "Carla, that's not how little girls act." Carla jumped in and said,
"That was me." My sister was working with us in the office. We both had chills up our back. We were like, "When did you live in Boston? All these years and you never said anything about it." And I remember the day. I didn't need any meditation or anything to remember, because I was also raised with a good Catholic family. Parents were always starting to split up, but of course, they didn't get divorced because they were Catholic. So I was the youngest of 6 girls. And that particular day, we didn't own a car. We weren't well off. My parents had rented 2 cabs, and we all went to Revere Beach. Now, anybody that's familiar with that, they know that Revere Beach wasn't just your normal beach. It had an amusement park with it. So that day, when Dave started to explain it, I knew exactly what he was talking about. And then when he told about the little girl with the blue bathing suit, I remembered, because the day we got there, for whatever reason, I didn't have the blue bathing suit. I didn't have any bathing suit. So we went across the street, all of us, and my parents really couldn't afford to buy me a brand new bathing suit, but it was my first brand new 2-piece blue ruffled bathing suit. And it was etched in my mind because my family was together. There was this little annoying 3-year-old who was running down the beach saying, "Ah," like that. But other than that, it was a good memory. And we actually, all of our book and our memory is from Dave's spontaneous memories through meditation. We did not do regression therapy until just 2 years ago. And about 3 years ago, I had my first session, and I saw that whole day. And I understood why I knocked him down. He really was obnoxious as a 3-year-old. And I was a 4-year-old, much older. But it was so cute. And it all came back to me. The sister just next to me was mad because she wasn't getting a new suit. And my oldest sister was mad because she had to be there with us and not with her friends. It's amazing what regression therapy can show you. But anyway, so back to Dave and our constant meditation.
Anyway, so it was pretty interesting to both of us that during meditation, we discovered that we had literally met over 50 years ago, one afternoon in Boston, and then reconnected in 1998. So,
unbelievable.
That alone was enough to make us interested, but we kept meditating. And then we had another day where I was meditating and suddenly I had another memory. It was just like the first one. And I was standing in a dark alley, and I looked across the dark alley, and Carla was standing there. Now, I say Carla, she was younger, but I knew it was her by her steel blue eyes.
Thinner.
And she was dressed like a flapper. And then I saw 2 big flashes come from her direction, and there were men standing next to her. And suddenly I felt something hit me in the chest. And I fell back, and I realized I'd been shot. So after meditating, I explained this to her. And I said, this was the strangest dream experience. I don't even know how to explain it. Meditating later, I got more of the story. And I realized that I met the flapper at a wedding. I thought, well, this is really interesting. And I invited the flapper after the wedding to go to breakfast the next day. And we walked around the coast of Chicago, the coastline at Lake Michigan. And she was telling me her life story, and I was sharing the story back and forth. And she told me her name was Ruby Donaldson, and her father's name was James. She was from Bullock, Georgia. She worked at a speakeasy called DeAndre's for a mobster named Angelo. I knew that I was invited to the wedding of Angelo. That's pretty much what I knew at that moment. But Carla's the most curious woman and asks more questions than anybody I've ever known. So after I shared this memory with her, Carla went out and did some research.
When I wasn't working one day, I got onto Ancestry.com first, and I found lots of Ruby Donaldsons, but in that area, apparently, Bullock, Georgia, it was a common name. But then I came across Ruby Donaldson, born in 1904. Her parents were James and Anna Donaldson. I was one of 11 children, and I could find pictures of the parents. I couldn't find pictures of myself. And then I did further investigating, and I found a newspaper article from January the 10th of 1925, where the gangster Angelo Genna married Lucille Spinola at Ashland Auditorium in Chicago. They had 3,000 guests, probably all 3,000 mobsters. And then I found another article that was a picture of their wedding cake. It was over 10 feet tall, and it showed 2 women standing next to it. Again, they were serving over 3,000 mobsters. So I called Dave back and I said, you're not crazy. I found this and this and this and this and this. So, we're on to something. And he just kept meditating. We just kept meditating and journaling.
Yeah, it was interesting because neither of us had ever heard of Angelo Genna. Mm-hmm. But we found out that he was the gangster before Al Capone in Chicago's Little Italy. And actually, I had so many memories of that life. I even had a memory of the apartment building that Ruby Donaldson lived in. Carla and I actually got in the car because this was so life-changing of an experience that we drove to Chicago, went to Little Italy, walked down the road, Halstead Street, turned a corner, and there was the apartment building.
On Loomis Street.
on Loomis Street.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of ours did some research. The apartment building was built in 1899 and has been an apartment building ever since.
Unbelievable.
And so as we are looking at those things now, again, I said we were both raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Reincarnation was not something normal in my language.
Mm-mm.
And these experiences were not something normal in my physician language. So we started doing lots of research, but we kept meditating. And over the course of a few years, we had lessons and lives until we actually found 42 lives that I've had, 34 that Carla's had, 29 that we've shared. And as shared, I'll say, yes, we've been friends. She's been my sister. She's been my mother. She's been my wife multiple times. In all of those lives, I'm glad that we're really good friends here, because one of the memories that I had with Ruby and JJ, one day I came in and I started explaining the memories I was having with Ruby and JJ, and I literally felt like I became JJ Wright, and I was having the conversation with Ruby Donaldson. And as I'm having the conversation with Carla starts to finish the sentences and starts to have the same memory.
It was wild.
Yes. And so that became so real to us that when we found all these lives, we started to do even more research, look at more items, trying to find the patterns here. And Carla had heard of Dr. Brian Weiss. So, we read a little bit of it, Many Lives, Many Masters. We kept writing everything down. And then during our meditation experiences, we met 4 individuals. And this is how the book is named. There was a day where I met Carla's mother. And Carla's mother had died 20 years before.
And he never met her.
And I never met her. And she kept showing me a shoe. And I told this to Carla, and I said, she looked like you a little from the side view. Your eyelashes were small, and she kept showing me a shoe. And Carla brought shoes up on her computer screen at the office. And I walked over and said, that's the shoe. Now, there were 60 shoes on the screen, but that's the shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And Carla told me about her mother some more.
Yes, she and my father had both done ballroom dancing, and she had this particular open-toed sandal that she liked to wear, and she didn't wear it just for dancing. She'd wear it like to church or if she was dressing up. And, we didn't have a lot of money, so she had, back then, the women had these silk shoes, and they would just keep re-dyeing them. So she always had that same type of shoe. And when he chose that shoe, my sister and I, again, were like, oh, how could you possibly have picked that shoe out of all of them? And he didn't really know anything about her. I don't even know if he knew that she was the ballroom dancer. He only knew that she died with a brain tumor, and it was 20 years before. So that was a real, aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we continued to meditate, I met Isabella. Isabella is my spirit guide. The day I met her, she reminded me of Carla. She still does in some ways. She corrects me when I make some mistakes, which, thank God, I've had Carla to correct mistakes for a long time now. But she started telling me more things about past lives, about some spiritual rules, some laws. Then we met Elizabeth, which was Carla's spirit guide. And then there was actually a day where I was asking Isabella to tell us about God. And I said, who is God? And suddenly had this incredibly warm feeling. I was actually crying in the office because what I heard was I am. Mm-hmm. And it became really changed us a lot. And with all those experiences, we started writing the book because we had to share with everybody that reincarnation is really God's plan from the beginning. It's it was set up because there really is no hell. There is chance after chance after chance to grow, learn, and really learn the 5 simple rules. Live without conceit, selfishness, and jealousy. Always be forgiving. Make every decision out of love. If you learn those lessons, then you actually get off this wheel and return home to God.
I would love to be off the wheel. Those are some good lessons to learn. Now that makes sense about your book, because I was wondering how you received the title for your book, how that came to be. Now, the name of the book that is released is The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth. So that makes sense.
And we have another book, and it's already released too. It's Hell No, Reincarnation.
Oh, it has been released. Okay.
It has.
Yes. We actually have 2 more books coming out this year that are already completed. And we should tell everybody that in both of the books, the first book, there's 21 of our life stories in it. The second book has 7. And after each life, we have given an explanation as to why we reincarnated again, what we did wrong in that life. Apparently, we're slow learners because we've done this over 6,000 years. You know, Dave has 42. I only have 34. So one of us must be naughtier than the other, but or not. But
and as we know, Carla, and as we know, you were actually born first. So you've been here little longer. So you are actually a little older.
I am older. I know. There's got to rub it in. Oh, well.
I love the rapport that the two of you have and the humor in such a topic. I mean, a lot of people believe it and some people are very skeptical. I definitely believe in past lives and reincarnation. And that's part of the reason why I was so excited to have you guys on the show, because I love stories like this. They're so fascinating. And needless to say, you guys probably weren't getting a lot done at the office after the first awareness of your life together. You probably you went down this rabbit hole, right?
We wanted to just stop what we were doing, but there were patients we had to take care of, you know? And we kept meditating every chance that we got. And of course, we meditated at home, and Dave meditated at home. And Dave has this incredible gift of being able to reach a spiritual world. Because of that, in our books, we have unbelievable details. We have journals and journals of things. And in the beginning, I was doing past life regression on him without knowing what I was doing. And then we went and trained with Mrs. And Dr. Brian Weiss and at the Omega Institute. And we don't do that for a living. We do it for friends and family to help them. And there's good in that too. Dave has this gift. He doesn't need to do it. One particular life, he has a life where he was my school friend. He was an 8-year-old little boy. He stuttered. And I took him back to that life. I actually tape recorded it. And through it, he actually stutters through the whole thing. And I actually get murdered and he witnesses it. And I had to jar him. He was so upset. So an upset, stuttering little boy, I shook him out of not knowing, I probably shouldn't do that back then. But yeah, he gets right into it. And there was another life where we are indentured servants on the Isle of Lemon Island, which is now Bermuda. And he spoke with kind of a proper English brogue. And I don't think we taped that one, but it was interesting. We've taken him back there a couple of times. But the important thing to remember is it's fun to know our past lives, and it's entertaining, but we need to grow and learn from those past lives. And I guess it's cool if you were somebody famous, but you weren't that cool. You wouldn't be back here again learning something. So we need to remember that it's fun, it's entertaining, but we need to learn what it is that we didn't do right and why we're back here again.
Do you feel like that is the ultimate purpose of reincarnating, is to learn those lessons that you were previously speaking of?
That and to help others that are learning their lessons.
And in our book, there's multiple lessons, but after each life story, there's actually a section that explains what we did wrong and what we needed to try to correct.
So you're aware in every past life that you've discovered together that there were lessons unlearned and what they were.
Correct.
Yes.
That just blows my mind.
There's one particular life that we actually were told that we would not have had to return, but we came back to help others. And, you know, I guess a lot of people do that. If you know that somebody else needs help on their path, then if God asks you to do it, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. I believe that's a big part of why we are here, is to assist each other and walk each other home.
Yes.
That's really the spiritual lesson there for all of us.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful? These stories are so neat, and I know you're going to share more with us. We're going to take our first break of the evening, and when we get back, we get to hear more about their past lives, both Carla and Dave's. And so I want you guys to stay close. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
You really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go.
Oh.
Hey, Dad.
You know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
Hello, Wanderers. Welcome back. We're hanging out with Carla Bogni-Kidd and Dr. Dave Bettenhausen tonight, and they are co-authors of the books, The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth, and Hell No, Reincarnation with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth, and more to come. That's really neat. I'm going to get my hands on your books because they're right up my alley. I know I'll enjoy them very much.
Good.
Great.
We hope
Glad
so.
to hear it, AJ.
Well, it's neat that you took the time and continue to take the time to write about these things. The awareness is really neat, but the stories are really fascinating.
We have lots of very fascinating stories. We should probably fill in a few little details. meditation became such an important part of our life. We actually taught meditation at a local university after we had some of this experiences. We also did meditation sessions at their local senior centers, because meditation literally, not only the spiritual changes, but I'd have to kind of explain to people that when we started to meditate, got all these lessons, not only did I feel better about myself, but we learned a lot about meditation. It lowers blood sugar, lowers, your blood pressure, it decreases cortisol. Along with decreasing cortisol and making yourself feel better, I had a significant transformation. I sort of set a goal when we were meditating to lose 2 pounds a week. A year later, I was 104 pounds less. So I know meditating can actually transform people. Now, we started to explore more because, again, I needed to understand as a physician why some of this worked and how I was getting these memories. We realized that meditating accesses the subconscious mind also, much like past life regression does, much like the state between wake and sleep. It actually has the same theta waves, delta waves in the brain that come forth, and that you actually can access some subconscious. I did even more research. I found out that in our subconscious we have this modular theory that psychologists talk about, and we actually do record every experience in our subconscious as either positive and negative. So when you start talking about experiences, so example for people, the first time you touch something that's hot, it burns you and you pull back sooner. The next time you touch it, you're faster because you've already had the experience and it's been saved. You start looking at past lives and you realize that if you're accessing that same point, that positive and negative experiences can still affect you in this life because you have them from your previous life. And we started exploring karma, some of those issues, and realized that the karma is all related to the 5 simple rules. Conceit, selfishness, and jealousy really set you up for some karma that needs to be corrected. If you're conceited in one life, you'll be possibly in a situation where you're going to feel someone else's conceit in the next. We started looking at the patterns that were happening in all of our past lives. We found lives that were back to back, where one life we were Viking, landing and attacking the Scottish. The next life we were Scottish attacking the English. The next life we were English attacking the Scottish. And in the next life, Carla was Viking, married into an English family, and fighting back against the Scottish again. And when we examined that, and when Isabel explained that, she said, literally, we all have to fight on the opposite sides of every war. You're literally fighting yourself. How will you learn that I am you and you are me and that we're all connected if we don't realize that you're actually fighting yourself? You're not fighting the enemy, you're fighting yourself. The other lesson about war is in war, really, there is no winner. If you win, you've created karma for yourself because you've beat somebody else down. You start to expand that in an argument. If you come out the winner and you beat somebody else down, there's some karma attached to that. You've become the conceited one who thinks you have to win.
So how do you find the balance in that?
It becomes difficult, but you have to start making the choices to make a loving decision, which means in a discussion, there's probably a compromise, even if the compromise is your experience is different than mine, and I have to understand that your experience is valid also, and that maybe the two of us can't agree exactly. That doesn't mean one of us has to win. You know, we've been through COVID for the last year, and there's so much division in the country right now. Even if we just agree that we need to be disagreed and not and not agree everything. We're not all going to agree with every Republican thing and every Democratic thing. Mm-hmm. We're not all going to agree that getting the vaccine is the right one. So I say, if you really don't want the vaccine, you believe the vaccine is something that is against your personal choice, I'll support that. I'm going to get mine, and I did, because I believe it's what's best for everybody in general. That doesn't mean that it's best for everyone, and if they don't want the vaccine and they're worried, that's their choice. I have to come up to a spot in between. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. How did you guys piece together your timeline of your lives together? Were you able to do that, or are they all scattered?
No, we actually have a board downstairs with all of our lives. We actually have our names, our birth dates, our astrological signs, what we died from, and then with our stories, we have all those details. And like I said, the books have tons of details. I mean, it's just like you're watching a movie. And I say this like this because, I don't do it. Dave can do it. I get bits and pieces, but Dave is the one with the gift that can go in and put himself right back in there. And that day he talked about becoming JJ, it was as if JJ was standing right in front of him. I mean, right in front of me. And I did become Ruby, and we felt for each other exactly what we did back in 1925. And it was really freaky because we were both married to other people and we both ran out of there. It was like, oh, that was uncomfortable. But those feelings surfaced because they were there and they could. So they did. And they continue to surface.
Sorry. Yeah, and so there's so many stories like that. And my personal favorite story is probably still Sarah and Robert, who lived in the 1650s. They met small town people in England. They had a child. I hate to say it's one of my favorite stories because there's so many great parts of that story. The minister, the wedding, the family things. But
don't give things away.
But Carla actually did not travel with me to America in the 1650s, and I had to. So the story is us losing a connection in there at some time. And it's actually, I went back and visited England just to visit the area and feel that same feeling again, because it's almost impossible when you're having such in-depth experiences not to want to know more.
Yeah. You would want to. It would become an addiction. At least for me, I could see how having that reminiscing or that feeling or that longing of that life or whatever that looked like and wanting to feel it more.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Now, I have to tell you, AJ, when we look back, not every life paints you in the perfect picture, and I think that's, yeah. So, if I look back, there's a very old Egyptian life, and we had slaves. Carla actually poisoned me in that life.
To death.
I died. Yes, and I died. And then her son poisoned her because he wanted control, and it was really his decision to take me out of the picture so that he wouldn't lose his control. So, I mean, that's not the perfect life, no. but it is our life. Mm-hmm. Some sort of lesson on greed and control and power.
And conceit.
Mm-hmm. There's a life where I am some sort of lesser Mayan priest, and we do human sacrifice. If you can live this like I do, it's horrific. It was terrible. We, as priests at that time, we prayed that we were at war, because at war, we would sacrifice a captured warrior. If there wasn't a captured warrior, they brought young women in, tied them over the altar, stuck spines into their arms, and bled them into a cup so they could feed the sun god.
And I should say the day that Dave told me that story, he came into the office and he said, "Sit down," and I did, and he started to cry. And I said, "What's going on? What happened?" And he started to tell me the story. He said, "I don't want you to think any differently of me or Tom, my husband, because Tom," and I laugh now because this is 6 years later, Tom was the priest, the high priest that was ordering all of this. That's the other thing. You find, because we run in these family circles, we call them family mates and we call them karmic mates. And the people in our lives have been with us over and over and over again, and we're all playing another role. But I didn't think any differently. I'm open-minded enough. I understood it. I was absolutely flabbergasted. But Dave was so upset just telling the story that he had taken part in something like that. But I will say that the kind, dear, sweet, pure as the driven snow Dave that really is still there today, he would get some tree bark that made the little girls hallucinate, and the high priest didn't know he was doing it so that they wouldn't feel the pain that he caused them. And I thought that was just, that was sort of medicinal. That was like he was thinking like a physician back then and again today. But yeah, that not all of our lives, I can laugh about them now because you have to, but they're horrible. Mm-hmm. Some of them, we were evil people.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've had visions of past lives of my own and have even done some past life regression. And I was not always a good person.
Me either.
And it's neat to know. And I did go a little dark when I found out a few things. It was so real to me. And I had to bring myself back to reality, understanding that's not my life now. And I did the best that I could in that moment with what I knew then. And that's not the experience that I'll have in this lifetime, because I obviously learned. But it's neat that you brought up the soul families, like how your husband was in that meditation that Dave had, how we are all so connected in every life that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that so neat? And to think that people that are close to you now, or your children or spouses or whatever that looks like, could have been something completely opposite in another life for you.
Yes. I've been the mother to my husband a couple of times and to Dave. I seem to have this mother thing, which is funny because I don't have children in this life. But it's interesting. We've done a lot of podcasts, and several of the podcast hosts that we have had, we have found them in past lives.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's nice because you're connecting. That is your great big family. And when you meet them, I get flashes of pictures of what life they were in. One of them was our daughter, and she was also a granddaughter. So, that was, you immediately have this feeling, this love for them, and you don't know why, but then we find it and we understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I try to think of it, because this is sort of how I experienced it to start with, as one big, huge electrical grid, and those souls closest to you seem to occur more often. The farther they get away from you in the grid, a little less often. So Carla's soul in that grid is very close to mine. So she's been in 29 lives. My own father's been in 7 or 8 of my stories, or 7 or 8 of my lives. Tom's been in 15 or 16. Paula's been in, that's one of the other, Carla's sister from The Office, has been in a lot of lives. And as we look, we've started to try to build what I'd call the Ancestry.com pictures of all of these lives, because we start bringing people in. And then there's times that are literally blow me away, because it'll be somebody that I haven't seen since I was 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And they'll pop back up in a past life. And I wonder, so I was connected to them. Mm-hmm. They were my friend, and they were my friend 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
actually, in book, Dave, tell her about the back of book 1, the appendix.
Oh, yes. The back of book 1, we actually have 20 or 30 people listed that show up in many of our lives. So they might list to be in 5 or 6 in this life, or
in the stories.
In the stories. So we've actually, a few of them, we've changed their names because they don't want to be associated with reincarnation. But it'll say Patrice, who is Carla's sister, and she's been present in many lives. She passed away too, and I never met her. So it's amazing when I find her in a past life. Those kind of experiences start to make this ever so more real, to the point where it is our reality now that we're going to run into people. We will have known them somewhere before. And when we talk a little bit about the karmic issues, sometimes I say, just remember when you meet somebody, if they're having a bad day, our first reaction, if the store clerk is in a bad mood and starts to yell at you, is to react back. Well, if you react back, you've now possibly tied yourself to the store clerk in another life, because now there's karma. And you may have to come back to
look at it that way.
Yeah, so you may have to come back to fix, because if you were rude back, you might have to come back and fix that. Now, Isabel has explained, you could do some self-evaluation, start being nice to every store clerk again, try to be patient and kind, and realize that if you affect this store clerk, and that store clerk is nice to her husband, then when she gets home and everybody's nice, there's a ripple effect. You may be able to fix that karma before your next life, because it may get back to that first clerk. Somebody else will do something kind and fix it, because you remember, I lost my cool, I was angry, try to address it next time.
But as far as the karma goes, our next door neighbor has been in 21 of our lives. We've had karmic debt with him over and over and over again. And it's not easy in this life either. And we hope we're done. We hope we're done with him. But I will say, sometimes the karmic relationship is absolutely necessary to fix it. Like in my case, Angelo Jenna, the gangster, he was actually my first husband in this life. So we have worked it through. I left him. He didn't own me anymore. I left him in this life, and we cleared up that karma. At least I did on my side, because he owned me, beat me, raped me, used me in all of those ways in the 1920s life. But in this life, I was smart and I walked away from it.
You learned your lesson.
I did, thank God.
Learned your lesson. I think this is a good moment to even mention this, because, and I'm going to use the 10 Commandments really quick, because if you look back at history, you will see that women have been oppressed, owned forever. And if you even look in the 10 Commandments, it actually says, don't covet your neighbor's ox, donkey, property, or wife, because it's listing the wife as a property. And so if we look at the history, and we can learn from history, and we can learn from past life regression, past life memories. Women used to be owned. They were married off for political reasons, all of those kind of things. And Carla can discuss that a little bit too, because she's had some of that same experiences when we look back at past lives.
I've been bought and sold numerous times. It just kills me, and I know things are different now, but I was sold off like at age 11 and age 12. There's a king. I don't like to mention when we're famous, because it means nothing to me, but there was a particular king in history, a whole group of them. And he actually took me at 11 years old as his concubine, if you will. And he beat me with his scepter, impregnated me by the age of 12. My mother actually poisoned him and killed him. But it's funny, because in the history books, they say he died of, I don't know, bad food or dysentery or something.
Gastrointestinal.
Yes. Yeah. But we know, because history tends to show all the good points, and they don't know all those underlying stories. And so often what's great about Isabella is we'll know something about history and we'll ask her and she'll say, well, that's not exactly how it went down. This is what happened. And she tells us to make a point, not to give us the gory details, but so that we know in history what was what. There's been other times, unfortunately, when I didn't do such a great job, like when I poisoned my husband, and he was the Pharaoh. But, he was, Dave, again, being as pure as the driven snow, he was letting our slaves go. That was in Egypt. And my son kept saying it wasn't the right thing to do because he wanted the wealth and he wanted the power and all of the above. And that's when I poisoned him, and then I was poisoned in turn. But then we had a couple lives after that where we were on the slave level, also in Egypt. So see how the tables were turned.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And again, I was kind of owned, but Dave rescued me from that ownership and got me out of that situation.
There's a lot of different patterns that we start to see. Other things we've seen, we've been pagan, Druids, pagans. We've been Catholic. We've been Byzantine Catholic. We have been Jewish, Muslim. And one of the things that we like to even tell people is, even with our reincarnation experience, we start to realize there's some truth in all religions, and that there's some positive messages that are occurring. And you can actually be a good Christian if you want to be. And I think you can finish this cycle. You can be a good Muslim and finish this cycle if you do the 5 simple rules. There's a liberating chance there that if you really are treating people as your equal, or treat them as you want to be treated, it really gets to the point where that karma gets fixed. You get off the cycle and you really learn what love is. And as one little extra point here is about love, because I know a lot of people with reincarnation, there starts to become this big argument about free will. And the lesson Isabella really taught on free will is you have to have free will. Without free will, you cannot choose to love. Because if love is coerced, asked for, needed, forced on you, it's not real love. And so everybody has free will in this plane, this earthly existence, because without it, you can't really love. And the other part of this, and this is part of why we're created the way we are, ego is really part of our leftover instinct from self-survival. If you don't have any ego, you won't try to protect yourself. You won't look for food. You won't get housing. And really part of our entire journey through all of these lives is overcoming the ego of conceit, selfishness, and jealousy, making those decisions to love, which means we've actually overcome the animal instinct that is in the human when our soul was placed here.
Do you believe that's one of the biggest challenges that we have in our experiences, is learning that unconditional love and forgiveness?
That's really is our challenge. That's why we're here. If we are all sparks from God, Creator, Source, Tao, however people want to discuss it, and Isabella says she's a spirit guide, and she says the way this works is there's God, there's a connection to the spirit guide, that connection comes straight to you. It is that you were never really separated from God. It is our ego that pulls us apart. She says she knows people will discuss this in different terms. She says it doesn't matter if you think your higher self is what connects you to Source, if you think it's your spirit guide that connects you to Source. It is that you are connected from God all the way through to your soul that is here in this existence, tethered in some way. And our goal is to make that tether shorter. Overcoming that karma of our human experience makes the tether shorter. It returns us closer and closer to God. And when we really become even closer, God accepts us back as that spark of love that he first created us. Or she, because God is he and she, just to make sure I get that in too.
Thank you.
I love that you had to add that in.
And that I was born first.
I love the sense of humor you guys have when it comes to this. It's so good. We're already at the top of the hour break. We're going to take that, and then second hour we're commercial free, which I just love. So stay close because there's more to come.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
You really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go.
Oh,
Hey, Dad.
you know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
My mic is clear over here. I took a break.
Okay.
And
We both did too.
Yes.
Just really quick, you guys are listening to Soul Wanderings on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Hudson Valley, New York. And I invite you guys to visit the website, kgradb.com. It's a new, beautiful site. It's filled with lots of opportunities for you to learn and explore. And there's exclusive content and the KGRA Classics. So I encourage you to go and visit and have a look for yourself. That's KGRADB as in digitalbroadcasting.com. And tonight we are hanging out with two beautiful guests. Oh my gosh, I'm just really enjoying the stories. We're hanging out with Dr. David Bettenhausen and Carla Bogni-Kidd. And you guys have had 29 past lives together. That just blows my mind that you first were able to figure that out. And second, that there are so many. And they're all just very different lives, too.
Very.
Very. Lots of different experiences.
And not only are you learning about the experiences that you've had together, but everyone wonders what the purpose of life is. Like, why are we here? And you're actually learning that through this human experience now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's one of the plus. Yes.
Yeah. So you guys are sharing your message and your purpose with everyone, which is one of the reasons why I began the show to begin with, was to have people show up to share their journey stories so we can help each other home, like we were talking about. And this is an exact reason that we do this, and your stories are the reason why. This is really neat. I'm getting excited, so I'm like blah 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 blah, but really it's really neat. I do have a question from the chat room, so let me go and find that really quick before we dive in further. Let's see. I already lost it. Okay, I already lost it. Oh, there it goes. From your guys' chronological past lives data, have you ever compared your birth astrological sign patterns?
Some. We've actually been doing that, and it's interesting that you asked, because we actually try to address that in the book that's coming out next year. This year, yes. I guess we're already in 21. We're in 21. We have another book coming out called The Manual. We discuss astrological signs, the histories of astrological signs. We've actually mapped out some of the astrological signs of one of our past lives, showing how they're related to the lessons that we learned and how they're related to karma. We've actually got our own little karmic wheel. We've learned some lessons on specific angels and how they address your birth sign. And your
karma.
And your karma. You're actually given an angel to specifically help you in some of your past life karma that you've had, so that you can make it easier. And it is angels that people have heard about, not necessarily the angel, but an angel in the Legion of Raphael or an angel in the Legion of Uriel. You know, if you get the angel of healing because you've been extremely unforgiving in the past, that angel in that legion will help you, and it's tied to your astrological signs. We've also found that it's tied to an archetype, some of the other traits that follow through with you, and that they're actually assigned by God to try to make sure you address your karma. So it's actually tied to your karma, tied to your astrological sign, tied to your past life, and we're trying to draw out that picture so people can see it.
That will be neat to see. That's one I'll look forward to. I've been told so many things about angels. Like, we receive an angel that is with us from the beginning of our experience. And then we receive angels to assist us during specific experiences in addition to. Do you believe that to be true?
I believe that to be true. Now, so again, much like we were saying, you may get a different angel if last time you had specific jealousy problems or selfish problems, so that you can try to help overcome that karma. So you're actually given a gift to help you with your past life problem. But much like I've had Isabella as my spirit guide, and some of the people we talk to say, so isn't that like a guardian angel? And I say, well, they call it spirit guides, but it's the same kind of thing. And Isabella's been with me for 6,000 years.
Wow.
And Elizabeth has been with me for 6,000.
And it's interesting because
so long. Talk about someone really knowing who you are.
And being very, very patient.
Yes, very. Why we learn these lessons.
Yes.
And it's an interesting thing, because one of the things Isabella said is that as a spiritual being who's always been spiritual, never being out of God's grace, love. They don't have needs, but they still have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And their purpose is to learn human emotion, because then they will also understand love better and understand God better. So as they watch us grow and try to extend our loving choices, and they start to see that we're making decisions on love, they understand why we're coming back, and that actually lets them fulfill their purpose.
So they're not already in awareness of that vibration, that love vibration, or
they
are also learning the lessons. They're not already excelled in that.
The spirit guide has never been separated from God, so they've never experienced loss of love, loss of those experiences. So for them, when they experience our loss of love, they actually feel an appreciation for the love they always are in. So for them, it gives them some purpose. It lets them understand that that life is, for us, is a blessing, and life as they experience it, always being in God's presence, is a blessing. Because if they never experience anybody's loss or anybody else having pain or sorrow, they wouldn't understand, because they're always bathed in love.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine being on that side of things.
Well,
being bathed in that love.
We get there, don't we? We want to get there.
If that's the point of having all of these many lives, is to reach that point in our experiences, then that is incredible.
And that's the purpose. That's why we're here, to understand how love really is, and how loving God. I always say God, Tao, Source, Creator, because I don't want to, Allah, I don't care the name that you use. How loving is the lesson that he's trying to teach, or she's trying to teach.
So love really is the answer.
Love really is the answer.
My favorite thing to say when I am in a position of not knowing, I always ask myself, what would love say, or what does love look like?
Mm-hmm.
And it changes the frequency of the experience, no doubt.
It really does.
And I like the word frequency. I like the word vibration.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love the word energy. Energy is really something scientific, but frequency and vibration really does speak of us growing, changing, raising, which gets us closer to God.
I'm not sure which one of you made the comment on my Facebook page, which I didn't really get to reply, because for some reason Facebook, they held my reply from you. They said I couldn't do it. Anyway, neither here nor there. So I wanted to talk about it, because the question was, what do NDEs, near-death experiences, spontaneous memory with meditation, childhood spontaneous memory, and past life regression all have in common?
Yes.
And that was a great question.
It was me who put that on there, just to get people thinking, if they saw the post. They all have some really incredible things. First, they all have to do with a subconscious, approaching the subconscious. And so accessing a memory that doesn't seem to be in your normal conscious stream. The other thing that is interesting is, if you look at the research on children, and they use children who are 3 or 4, some people may have seen the series that's on Netflix right now. Mm-hmm. There are studies by Ian Stevenson, Jim Tucker, who was on the Netflix series, Jim Matlock, who also does some of this research that's been going on for 60 years. And they have 2,400 and some documented cases of reincarnation in kids that have details much like the Ruby and JJ story.
Mm-hmm.
One of them on the show is a young man who remembered being a fighter pilot, going down in World War II. He knew the name of the boat that he was on. He knew crew members' names on the boat, and he was 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And his family went out and found the boat and found that the man, James, who was a pilot, was the only one lost at sea, and his plane went down in Iwo Jima. I can never say that. But there are 2,400 stories like that Ian Stevenson, Jim Matlock, Jim Tucker have documented that shows kids who are 3 or 4 who really don't have experience. If you do some research on past life regression, people will tell you it's highly suggestible.
Mm-hmm.
If you've had an experience and you've seen something on television, you may start to fit your past life memory into something you're already comfortable with. It's one of the things the mind will do.
Mm-hmm.
But there's these studies. The other part of the studies are that 33% of the world's population believes in reincarnation. 20% of the Christians say they do. Yet, nobody wants to talk about it in public because it's not church doctrine. The things that NDEs have in common with past life regression, with what these kids tell us, with memories that occur in the wake and sleep and with meditation, every one of them, not everyone, but most of them have patterns. And the patterns are, there is a spiritual being that is greater than you, that is in some kind of control or guiding light that gives you some help. There is family groups that greet you, maybe come back during your NDE and some parts of them greet you. There are family groups that you follow through. There are family that you visit when you're back on the other side. There is love as a overwhelming experience for everyone that experiences a time between lives. We've experienced some of the time between lives, and I usually try to tell a story because I also got to experience my father's last past life regression or past life review, or his time of atonement after he passed 4 or 5 years ago. And I watched my father watch his own movies. And that's what I call it, because they literally replay parts of your lives, showing you where you have treated someone with disrespect or abuse. And then you actually feel part of the compassion because you feel what their family felt or they felt, so that you learn that potential compassion. And my father had a past life as a slave trader. He stole men from the continent of Africa, chained them into his boat. He split families apart. In the very next life, they showed what happened to him in that life, and his daughter was abducted, and his wife died during childbirth. Thus, he was split apart from his family. And in the very next life, which was his life as my father, wonderful man, loving, great man. He was a high school principal. That's why I got to graduate school and met Carla in 1962. But my father got a very severe case of Parkinson's and was chained to a wheelchair for the last 20 years of his life, so that he would learn compassion for the men or women that he chained into the base of the boat. So the karma doesn't always follow, you're going to be a slave because you were a slave.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that you enslaved people in the past, and now you're enslaved because you're an alcoholic and you're trapped to the alcohol or to the drug abuse. Something else is controlling you because you're not controlling yourself. Those are some of the lessons we've learned through some of this experience. Those kind of lessons, it's like learning 40 people's past life lessons, 40 people's experiences, and we've learned them all in this one life. And it really makes it start to change the way we look at the world.
Yeah, I could see how that would be. It seems like a lot of orchestration is going on. And there are a lot of humans in this experience right now. That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. And that's one of the reasons a lot of past life regression or reincarnation people will talk about how they made all the choices when they were coming back. We don't make all the choices. The choices are guided. You know, there's no way it will all work together unless this is coordinated. And it's one of those great proofs for me that God exists, because someone coordinates how this works. You know, you're not in every life with somebody, but if you have karma with somebody you need to return in this next life, some of the choices are presented to you. You need to learn this lesson. You're going to need to do this. That's how the astrological signs, some of your traits, some of those things start to tie in, because those things pull you together, because those experiences have to happen. It has to be coordinated. And I always say, you know, some people say, well, you get to make all the choices. You apparently don't get to make all the choices, because most of us would choose to be rich, famous, with no problems.
Right, of course.
But we don't choose that. And they say, well, I chose my parents. Well, if your parents didn't choose you in their pre-planning, who wins?
So we're definitely a part of our own orchestration.
We are part of our own orchestration, but we're also part of someone in greater's orchestration.
I've shared before in the past how I really came, saying this sounds not quite right when I say coming to terms, but for the lack of a better word at this moment, of the lesson of forgiveness. There was a class that I took that talked a lot about soul families and how we like huddled together before one of us goes down to have their next experience. And we say, this is a lesson we need to learn in this experience, A, B, and C. And one of your soul family speaks up and says, I'll help you with lesson A. I'll show up this way, even though it's not a great way to show up for you, but it's in order for you to learn this lesson or to heal this experience or whatever that looks like, I'm going to show up for you that way. And so in this experience that I've had in this lifetime, where there were some really horrible things that took place, in order for me to forgive that person and move on with my life, I took that lesson of accepting that they probably were part of my soul family and decided they were going to come up and present themselves to me in this way so that I could have this experience, because without this experience, obviously I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yes.
Correct. I think a lot of what you're saying is the way that it works. And you are there's actually a council that helps you with some of these plans. I know that even from my own experience, family that's there comes and greets you, not only to help you transition because it's confusing, but to give you support, encouragement. And sometimes it's people who've already passed. Sometimes it's people who are not done and they are going to come back, but they still try to greet you so that you're aware that you're not alone, because that's one of the other great lessons in all of this is we're never really alone. There's always somebody there to help us. There's a spirit guide, there's an angel, there's our family mates. And much like you said, AJ, that soul group is really made up of both family mates and karmic mates. You have to have some of the negative experiences that we experience to learn lessons. Right. They have to happen, and you have to overcome them.
And it's easier to forgive somebody when you just remember to yourself, we're all playing a role. They're playing a role. Their path is not your path. They have been kind enough to jump in. And Dave and I like to say, you know, my past marriage, when I was married to Angelo Jenna, I have to think of it as a blessing because I was able to overcome it. And had I not done that, maybe I'd be with him in another life. And he's been in a lot of my lives. So it's a blessing, but we're just playing roles, and it's easy to forgive somebody if you can, detach yourself from that.
That awareness has been life altering for me. I chose to believe it, and it's changed everything about my experience, the way I perceive people and how they show up, and vice versa, how I show up for them.
Good for you.
And AJ, that's really the key here, because if you retaliate or respond, you're really just creating another situation that you have to heal from.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to heal from something if it doesn't affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's part of that love lesson. And you'll hear people talk about love. And usually I like to say, love is only real if you love the person for the way they are, not try to create them to be something else. If you start to try to make them something else, you really don't love them. You love who they could be.
Right.
And those are all lessons that we learn in a lot of these past lives. It's trying to make somebody something they're not doesn't really work.
That's part of the unconditional part.
That's part of the unconditional part.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm just really curious. You guys both grew up Catholic, and now your whole belief system, do you feel like it's altered, or is it just in addition to what you grew up learning?
Well, I grew up Catholic, Mormon, Methodist. And
that's a combination,
isn't it? So Catholic first. And, I was raised in the East Coast where the nuns would yell at us and say that if you laughed and giggled during high mass, you were going to hell. So I quickly didn't believe any of that. And then when my parents got divorced, of course, they finally did. And my mother was not able to take the sacrament and she was ostracized. Then the nice little Mormon missionary boys knocked on her door. And
yes, they do.
Yes. And they came to many dinners. And before we knew it, we were Mormon. And my mother was fantastic at whatever religion she was. And, like Dave said, all religions have something good to offer. If nothing else, fellowship. As a Methodist, I really didn't have any complaints. They didn't force you to do anything. I didn't agree with all of their doctrine, but I took a little bit from each one.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go to church. If there were a church that we could go to, that they were open-minded and they weren't judging everybody, I'd be the first one there on Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning, whenever they chose to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything against church. I have a problem with people judging when you don't go to church, or they go to church on Saturday and on Monday they're acting up again. That's it's not right.
Do you believe that religion needs to play a factor in our human experience?
No.
I don't think religion has to play a part. I think spirituality has to play a part. I think God has to play a part. Religion, as far as a set of doctrines, and you ask a little bit, I went through, and that's partly in our book, Hell No, Reincarnation. We went through and we started doing as much research as we could. And Jewish people believed in reincarnation, and a portion of them still do, and it's all part of the Kabbalah. There were Christian Gnostics at the time of Jesus who were teaching reincarnation. So Jesus' people believed in reincarnation. Christian Gnostics at the time of Jesus believed in reincarnation. 200 years after Jesus, Origen of Alexandria, Egypt, who was a early church father in the Catholic Church, who wrote much of the early doctrine, he actually taught transmigration of the soul. He said all souls pre-existed, all souls could return into other lives. Now, 200 years after that, he was excommunicated from the church in 400 AD because they wanted to get rid of the teaching. One of the other really interesting church history issues is there's it's called Molinism, and it occurred at the time in church history, and it was more mystical experience within the Christian churches and the Catholic churches. And they made it illegal within the church because people started to communicate, meditate, and speak to God directly. And the church says, we can't let them speak to God directly because then they don't need us. So I think some portion of fellowship in a church is great. We don't need the church to reach salvation. We don't need a church to reach our potential. However, we might need the church because we need like-minded people to share with.
A community.
A community. And so if that's where you find your community of like-minded souls that help you on your path, then I think church is great. If you think you need church because it makes you feel special, better than anyone else, and that you think you're the only 144,000 people that are going to be saved, then I'm not so sure.
That feels really nice, that answer. It resonates with me very much. When you guys talk about reincarnation and you share these stories, they sound and feel very true to you. And I know Carla had done some research and did find some history, some facts of the characters that were playing in your experiences. But how did you know that these experiences were real? Was it just a knowing? Was it like a clear cognizant feeling, or was it after you started finding the facts to those lives that it became evident to you that they were real?
Well, the first life memory was Ruby and JJ. So we had some facts. So we thought, we've got a bunch of confirmed facts. Some part of this is real. And then the experiences were real. And then as we did more research, we realized that the first lives that we found were all trauma-related lives. And the researchers will say that most of the time the trauma-related lives will actually surface first. So that helped us a little. I'll tell you a story that just happened. It's a gentleman that I met online, and he has a past life because he's writing a book, and the past life is the same past life that we have. And there's part of the experience that he explains is the same experience we had. So even though I can't confirm by facts that life, he has a past life that confirms part of the facts. That alone starts to make me, very positive. The other thing that happens is...
It's the synchronicities a lot of times too, hey, Jay? One of the hosts we had a couple of lives in Italy, and in one of those lives, we had 6 children. And we've identified all of the children that we had together in that life with our family mates, except one. And we knew that her name was Angelia. And we were doing a podcast with a girl, and before the show started, she shared with us that she had had past life regression, and she was told that her name was Angela, and it was in Italy, and she was always drawn to it. And immediately I got the chill up my spine, and of course Elizabeth was talking to me, and I waited, and when she started talking about it again, I said, I told her that we'd been waiting to meet her, that Isabella had told us, you haven't quite met her. And what's interesting is that one of our other daughters in this life, she's been in 16 of our lives, and I sent her a picture of the two of them, because you look similar. I sent her a picture of she and her sister in that life next to each other, and she said, oh my God, it was just unbelievable. I mean, those synchronicities and those things, they're real. They're just
validation.
Real. Yes, yeah. Yes.
So we keep getting validations. Now, I also have to tell you, we don't always look similar because we've been, I think Carla's had 14 lives with dark skin, and I've had 16 past lives with dark skin. We do have an Asian life. So there are certainly characteristics that don't follow in those lives. It's interesting. Carla has steel blue eyes, and there's something in the eyes when you look at people that makes you know you've known them. And even you know that you've run across somebody new in your life, and you sat down and you suddenly talk for 4 hours like you've known each other forever. It's somebody you've probably known forever. And whether it's that or the experience of deja vu, it starts to happen. You notice things that just shouldn't happen by coincidence, because we don't think there is any coincidence.
There's no coincidences.
No.
And even though I don't like to get a big discussion on quantum physics, there's a concept in quantum physics that really explains how two particles in the same universe can be miles or extraordinary distances apart, not in contact, can't see each other, yet they affect each other. It's called entanglement, and they've done experiments, and the entanglement draws the particles together, sort of like gravity, but it's not. It's the two particles can affect each other even though they're not in the same location. If you look at science as the way God created things, it's not surprising that we start to find things in science that support that two people living 750 miles away would meet when they were 3 and 4 and then meet again 35 years later, and I would buy The Office. Somehow those two particles, those two individuals are entangled in history, in the life stream, that they have to cross paths. And those crossing of paths is really what this past life regression starts to teach people. It's what our experiences taught people. And why we actually went to past life regression with Dr. Brian Weiss. We wanted not only the experience of listening to Dr. Weiss, who's a wonderful, sweet, loving man, but we wanted the experience that, because we regressed other people and we had shared experiences, and there was 150 open-minded people all having shared experiences at the same time. And it was a beautiful experience, because it almost is so emotional when the person in front of you has that experience. You know it's real for them. And I know the experience is real for me. And when we can share those things, everybody starts to grow. And that's why we're out trying to do a podcast with AJ on soul wandering, because the souls are wandering somewhere and they're meant to meet. And we call those people that are meant to meet intended. Somewhere you're intended to meet.
Do you believe that before we come down and we decide that we're going to be in each other's lives, do we always have that connection in that experience, or are there some lives that we don't cross paths like we intended to?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. Free will still exists. Choices happen. Some people talk about future life regression, and even Dr. Weiss will get up and say, it's a possibility. We'll do this regression. It'll take you to a potential. However, free choice changes things. If I had stayed a nurse, I would have never bought a medical practice. I would have never met Carla, except in 1962.
We would have met somewhere else. Isabella has explained a couple of places where we would have crossed paths.
Yeah.
Elsewhere. It's so intricate. It's unbelievable.
It does sound that way.
Yeah, there was a time when I was going to end up in Indiana and Carla was going to study and end up in Indiana, that we've discovered as we've talked to each other. So if I hadn't been here in Ohio, maybe the choices would have been different. Somehow we would have influenced our decisions and we would have met in Indiana.
But there are a couple of lives where Dave was killed earlier and we were going to meet, but we didn't. There's also, this is an interesting one. There was a particular life where we had a little fling, and he was killed the next day. And 9 months later, he came back to me again.
How did you figure that one out? That sounds interesting.
That's in the book number 1. We won't give the details.
Yay! I'm reading the books, and I'm really excited about it.
Yes.
Did you have your intuitive abilities before? Like, you're able to communicate with your guides and your loved ones who have passed. Was that something that you were practicing before you guys began on this?
Not on purpose. Not on purpose.
No.
Well, I'll say that when I was 4 years old, my mother and father were not living together, and I was laying in my bedroom. Dave just brought this up the other day, and I was in a crib because I didn't have a bed yet. We were poor. And my 2 other sisters slept in the same room with me. And I've always had this, I'll say tiny bladder. But it was a nervous thing as a child. So I always felt like I had to run to the bathroom. And I started calling to my sisters, just calling them over and over and over, and they wouldn't get up. And I heard in my left ear, which is where our spirit guides talk to us, a voice say, "Carla, go to sleep." And I never forgot that. I never forgot it. And I couldn't understand. My mother wasn't there. My sisters were sleeping. Who could be talking to me? So I did hear it back then. And when you're younger, you do hear more often. But honestly, Dave really didn't know he had this gift until we meditated. However, when he was in college, he would walk in this certain area and talk to God all the time. And he felt like he got a response, but not like he gets now.
Yeah, I would go to the same place. There was a bridge that went over a river, and I went to that spot, and there was a little light that shined across the river, and I talked to that light all the time and would ask God, should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? And I always felt that I got an answer. So I think that there's some connection you feel. Only because I always think this is interesting because my grandmother was the most Catholic woman that I've ever known. Sweet, angelic, everything you could ever want. She never said a negative word that I ever heard. But she told me a story when she was first married to my grandfather, and they moved from Lincoln to a small town in Nebraska. And grandfather purchased the first gas station that was ever in that small town. And he worked on cars. And grandma was at home one night, and she went to bed because my grandfather was working on cars and doing the books. And she forgot to say the rosary. And she felt the bed shake. And she looked down, and at the end of the bed, she said she wasn't sure if it was Mother Mary. An angel said, "Catherine, get out of bed. You need to pray." So my grandmother got out of bed, knelt down, started to say the rosary, and the gas station exploded. And my grandfather was thrown across the street and through the window of the general store across the street. And he got up and he brushed the glass off, walked through the window, completely uninjured. The gas station burned to the ground. They put the fire out. He walked home because their car was gone. They had to borrow a car. They packed everything they had up. Grandma said, "Apparently you're not supposed to be in the car gas business." And they moved back to Lincoln. And my grandfather walked into the University of Nebraska looking for a janitor's job. And he stopped in the admissions office, and the lady said, "We have a part-time janitor job at night, which means you could go to school if you wanted." He went to undergrad, then he went to law school, and then he became a Supreme Court justice in the state of Nebraska. Grandma used to say, "If it wasn't for the angel or Mother Mary who told me to pray, he would have never became a judge, and you would have never been born." Because your mother would have never been born.
We hear so many stories like that. If you wouldn't have, and if I wouldn't have, then this wouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
It's in normal everyday conversation, at least in my world. And you think so many people still don't believe.
I know.
They
How's
still
that
don't
possible?
I don't understand. I don't know how you cannot believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just tell the rest of part of this story. My grandfather was a judge. He also was the foreman for St. Teresa's Catholic Church in Lincoln, Nebraska, when they built a new church. That summer, my father walked onto the site because he was a college student, and my grandfather met him and hired him to help dig the basement. 2 years later, my father met my mother.
Synchronicities.
But had already met my grandfather. And he met her at college.
I just love how intertwined everything is. It really is so fascinating to me. And like you said, there are no coincidences. There are no accidents in any of this. It's all beautifully designed.
Beautiful is the word. It really is.
And so as we think about these experiences, it becomes, more and more beautiful. That's why we keep coming out and trying to share the story, is if you realize the story of love from some other past life, there's always a lesson of something you had to overcome still in that life. There's a past life in Spain where Carla was married off because the man that she had to marry had more power and status and etc. And I was married to somebody else. And we lived our lives next door neighbors and friends, and we'd been raised together. And it wasn't until both spouses died and we met each other at 60 that we got together. It's interesting that story exists, and our story now exists, because part of that is the story that someday, if you're meant to meet them, you're going to, and it will make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to trust the process.
That's the big word right there. Trust. Mm-hmm. Trust that it all plays out exactly how it's meant to. Mm-hmm. I have another question from the chat room. Do you feel everyone reincarnates? And if yes, how is there enough souls for the population increase?
All right. So, yes, I believe everyone reincarnates except Carla, you tell them.
Except Jesus and Mohammed. They're the only two that got it right the first time.
So I think that's interesting in itself. Everybody else, I believe, has been reincarnating. The other thing is, we've actually been told there are souls who still have not had their first life, which really explains why the population growth happens.
Why do you think that is? That they just haven't made the choice to have that adventure, or?
I think there's somebody who plans this, who knows that the planet is going to continue to populate and grow. So there has to be new souls placed who were always created. So they've been experiencing everybody's life down here. And you do get to watch some of what's going on. So they're preparing. The other thing that's happened that's very interesting is, even in our past lives, and Isabella said this is true, the time between lives is getting shorter.
Yes.
Because the population has been growing. So we have to reincarnate quicker to populate the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers that person's question. There are new souls. The time between lives is getting shorter. And there's somebody greater than us that planned this from the beginning.
So where do new souls come from is their next question.
They were always created. They are still living in that grid. This is a part of book 3, but we'll at least mention it for everybody. We're all created in this great grid of souls. We've all been created since the point in creation where all souls were created. Everybody waits there. It's an area that's warmed, bathed in love. It is comforting. There are no needs. And you're actually created in small little pods with 3 other souls and a spirit guide that is going to assist them. And the pods that are closest to each other are those that are the most connected. This will be sort of a discussion on sacred geometry, but we're going to talk about that real quick. Every one of the pods is shaped like a dodecahedron. It's interesting when you study dodecahedrons, you realize they can all be stacked together and there is no void in the space. So it's a 12-sided thing with 5 pentagon sides that stacks with no void, so that in the other world there is no void. And if you look back at some quantum physics and some of the astronomy studies, there are actually reports that the universe may actually be expanding in the shape of a dodecahedron. Just thought I'd point those things out. And if you look at a dodecahedron, which is a 12-sided structure, you start to see 12s show up in the world, whether they're 12 astrological signs, 12 traits, 12 archetypes. You start to see 12 months. The cycle of the moon becomes a month. We see how the cycle of the year goes in 12 months. You start to see 12 apostles, 12 tribes of Israel. There's actually 12 tribes that are offsprings of Ishmael in the Muslim world too, even if that's sort of history is out of order there. You start to see that the 12s exist everywhere.
And that's the manual.
Okay, that's book number 3.
That's book number 3.
And that will be released this year.
That'll be released March or April.
We hope by April. Yeah.
Ooh, very soon. So I could get the first 2 under my belt, and that one will come out just in time.
There you go.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's
and
so
one thing that what Dave did not say is that because our pods are next to each other, that's why my spirit guide is from Dave's pod and his spirit guide is from my pod.
Which again draws us completely together, which is one of the reasons why, when I told you, Isabella sometimes reminds me of Carla, because she's a related soul.
Okay. How do we become a soul, though? I get the pods. Like, how does that even happen? How do we become?
That's actually in book 1.
Yeah, we were created. It's a spark of energy from God. It's part of the creation story. And I don't mean the creation story necessarily in Genesis. In book 1, Isabella does tell us the story of creation, as in somewhat of the order. And it's interesting because it's a little biblical sounding in a time frame, and it matches very much what quantum physics has described as the Big Bang, a combining of cells, the explosion from a center part that expands into all directions. So it's actually in book 1.
Okay, awesome. I have another question. I want to get them before the end of the show. It says, are you two beautiful soulmates looking forward to ascend together to the next destiny soul level instead of reincarnating back at this level?
Well, my spirit guide has been saying lately that I should not even be worrying about that I'm not trusting the process, because I joke and I say, I hope I graduate this time. and they tell me I shouldn't be doing that, because if I do that, I'm not trusting the process. But I certainly hope. I hope we've done enough. We're trying to do what we're supposed to. We're trying to follow those 5 simple rules, which are really hard to do.
So, yeah, definitely.
And so, yes, we hope we're done. However, if our attention becomes focused on getting done, then we forget to focus on the reality, which is it's the others in our life, the shared experience that matters.
Mm-hmm.
It's really how we're, if you want to say, judged on our growth. And we shouldn't judge anyone else, but God can judge us on our growth, and it's really our interactions with others. So becoming self-concerned, whether this is my last life, might change my focus from sharing the message to protecting my message, which is different.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to share the message.
You bring up judgment of God, but I've heard that that's really not a thing when we end this experience and we have that video replay, that the one that ends up judging us is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. That's how we learn that compassion. That's correct. And
that's a hard pill to swallow. I feel like judging ourselves is a lot different than having someone else judge us. One, we're harder on ourselves, most definitely.
Absolutely. And we like to say, even in this world, it shouldn't really be about judgment. It should be self-evaluation. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be negative. It can say, today I am this. Mm-hmm. So tomorrow I just need to be better than this. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be perfect, as long as I grow better than this. Mm-hmm. If I make the next step, I'm on the right path.
It's about the intention.
Everything I feel is about intention.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of those other lessons of love. Love is not just a feeling. Love is an action and a feeling. It must be something we do and feel. It can't be something we want. It's something we do and feel.
What about it being something that we are?
I like that.
I think that is absolutely perfect, AJ.
I like that.
Because from love you were created, and love you're going to return. Mm-hmm. Everything else is what's in between. And that's part of what we're experiencing and trying to get over.
That feels so good. Mm-hmm. I have another comment, question in the chat room, and I've had a couple of messages off to the side in private. Everyone's wanting to know if you two have ended up together. Is that something you feel?
I am single and available. However, Carla and I are best friends, and she has a husband who knows how close we are and how much we care about each other and love each other. But we're just close friends.
We're plugging along.
I love that. I love the respect that there is there, and that relationship is able to occur and be supported.
Yes.
Yes, and that's what we have to do with everybody. We have to support their experience. Mm-hmm. And just because I know we'll get closer to the end, I'll throw this one out too, which is somebody will talk about twin flames, soulmates, all of those kind of terms in this world. We do believe soulmates exist in heaven once this world is over.
In God's choice.
God's choice, that two people might emulate the male and female side of God so much, and it wouldn't have to be male and female, two individuals emulate the feminine and masculine qualities together. Mm-hmm. They could be joined to serve as a beacon of love for everyone. We would call that a soulmate, something that would happen for eternity after this life. However, the whole idea of twin flames or soulmates, because all of those terms imply that you're not complete by yourself, that you need someone to complete you.
I've always agreed with that.
Mm-hmm. You are complete on your own. It is your path to learn to be complete. Those we meet complement us. You find those people that love you and they complement us. They don't complete you. You don't need them to complete you.
I love that you ended the show with that. We are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way that we are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One more lesson.
That message as much as I can.
Perfect. Yes. I'll give you one last lesson. In this world, things are the way they are. People are always talking about we've got to do something to change things because we're leaving it to our families. If you believe in reincarnation, you're literally leaving it to yourself. That's how the karma works. If we destroy this planet, there's nothing to come back to.
We get to the earth. Really quick, let's give out your website and the name of your books and how people can get a hold of you, and we will close the show with that.
The website is thegiftofpastlives.com. You can connect us to us through the website. It connects to our email addresses. Our books are The Gift of Past Life with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth. And Carla does own the ring on the front cover of this book.
Oh, and there's a story in the book. It's great. Ooh.
I hope there was with a cover like that.
And their second book is Hell No Reincarnation, where we reconcile some of the research, some more past lives, 7 of them to be exact, some of the research in reincarnation, some of our experiences, some of the experiences with religion and reincarnation, so that we could understand what we were going through.
And are you going to announce the name of your third book, or is that for us to wait on?
It's the manual. And actually, we have our fourth book. It's called The Trajectory of Becoming. That's our meditation book. So those will both be out in a few months.
All of those feel really good, and I'm definitely going to order the first 2 books tonight. And how can I do that?
On our website.
Okay.
Yeah, or you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, a few other, Walmart.com. It's available out there.
All over the places. What about on Audible?
It's not on Audible yet. We have not done an Audible version.
Okay. Good to know.
We'd like to, but it'll take time.
It does. It takes time. It was such a pleasure to spend the last 2 hours with the both of you. I am fascinated by your journey together, and I really look forward to learning more about you by reading your books. Thanks you so much for being here.
It was
AJ,
a pleasure.
You have a great presence. It was a pleasure. It really was.
Thank you so very much. I feel the same about the both of you.
It's wonderful when you meet somebody with a loving, peaceful soul.
Yes,
Thank
you can feel it.
Thank you for seeing that in me. I really appreciate it. Everyone, stay close to the website, KGRADB. That's where you're going to find all of the latest and greatest from the station, my show, and all of the many others. Thank you for being here with us tonight. It was so much fun, and we'll see you next week. Good night.